Didn't make. He was here all day last Thursday, or pretty much all day last Thursday, doing the walkthrough of the building, so. Anyway, Chris, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Over the minutes in the March 10th meeting. Yeah, I haven't had a chance to look at them, if you would please do so.
I found one little tiny typo. I know, it was instead of the word from, it said form, and it was on, oh, I did here. I think it- the tree thing, but I was gonna mark it. And then we did not. So it wasn't a big deal. It's here,
It's down almost the bottom of the second page.
thank you. Yeah, we have not collected almost $5,000
$5,000.
from there. Thank you. Other than that, though,
With that correction, I move.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the minutes with no correction. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Passes unanimously.
Just a note on that, we did receive word that we get that stop grant has been lifted, or that stop has been lifted, so. Yeah, we've got the class plan in a way, and yeah, that's awesome, that's exciting.
Good. So we'll be able to start right away then.
They've already started. Got some great ideas.
oh, they're,
Yeah.
Okay, our next item of business is the introduction of the visitors, Mr. Hankins.
We have usually Tanner Puer, Mukunu, and Keel Lego. And if you see on the board, okay, so I am also here in person. Paul, the reason why I was timing out after an hour was because nobody else was on it. So he wanted me to try to just try it on my house. Wait a little time out.
nice.
Just wondering why I'm up there. Multitasking.
But maybe you were in trouble or something.
And I think it was because you.
Because I was on it, right, so I think that must be what it is.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we never had that problem. Yeah, and sometimes it would let me rejoin, and then other times it just says, sorry, you've already joined that meeting, you can't come back. So, we're gonna try it.
Okay. Next is a review and approval of the claims and accounts.
As always, if you see something else, so. 20037 Barrett Hospital and Healthcare for $3,301.41. That's a combination of trainer fees and PTOT. It's actually the PT is what that is from Barrett Hospital. And just as a note, you'll recall, can't remember what month it was, but due to changes in the law, Elisa's contract will increase. She had to increase to a certain amount to meet the minimum threshold. Otherwise she'd have to be paid overtime for different hours beyond, the 40-hour work week. So Barrett Hospital absorbed that for the remainder of this year, but we will then go back to splitting it like we normally would next year, the start of the new school year. 20039, the BMO MasterCard for $8,372.69. You'll see on there a couple of AP registration A couple of our teachers are doing some staff development for AP surrounding statistics and physics, just as a possible option to be able to offer those courses. And then just various Carl Perkins grant and vocational education monies that we have to finish out the grant and the vocational money for the year. And then down at the bottom, transportation parts and supplies. That was for an alternator and various things to surrounding stabilized. As a stabilized. Two at the top, BMO MasterCard for $1297.55. For a variety of maintenance supplies, including vacuum bags, filters, extension cords, those different types of things. 20041 Brown and Thompson for $13,610.77. And Suzanne looked back, and that is up 20 cents per gallon this month. And so, I'm afraid we're going to see some of those different types of things as we're kind of moving forward with where we're at. So, let's see here, a little further down, 20046, 3100 for Crowley and Fleck. That was just in preparation to get ready for the walkthrough that the first of the walkthrough that we had last week, and then we will continue to do this week. Another one. On page 3 at the bottom, 20056, the Hope Squad, 6200. This was a grant through the Office of Public Instruction to offer the Hope Squad next year. So JC Hacker, our counselor, will be taking that on, and that's if you talked about it. Can't remember how many board meetings ago, but it's really a student-led group. So they get training and all kinds of different things surrounding mental health and just kind of having students be eyes and ears and support system to try to make sure that any challenges or problems that students are facing, that they can point them in the right direction. I think it's just another positive step in a direction towards school safety and helping students in need. Page 4, 20059, Phone Incorporated for $1,584. Elevator maintenance is what that was. So they come in a couple of times a year and do inspections and just a variety of different maintenance to make sure that we keep our old elevator up and operational. So down at the bottom, 20064 Northwestern Energy, $11,962.58, and you will notice on there that it's got the gas and electricity for March, and then Suzanne put on there because we have now taken over Vigilante. We do take on the electricity and the electrical there, and so those charges were for this month. So we'll just kind of watch that and see how how that impacts. It is up $1,000 from last month and $1,000 from last year. And so, yeah. Page 5, Quill Corporation for $3,060.02. That's where we get a lot of supplies and those different types of things. A lot of this one was toners for print cartridges, and then a variety of different testing supplies for different needs for students as we head into testing season. Sometimes they get special or they get headphones and those different types of things. And so 20069 Shell Energy for $3,111.41 for gas transmission for March. That was down $5 from last year and $1,300 from last month. So that was a positive. Back page 20075, there was some of the documents for $9,391.93, and that's December, January, and February CNCT service. And again, we're continuing to watch that. That all should be a match that we get back. We will read them kind of quickly, so if I missed one, that you noted.
Question.
Yeah.
Page 4. Not about the bill. Lane and Associates. That random drug test with much better. How often is that? Or do they just do like 3 or 4 each time they come in or something, or?
Yes,
Okay.
but I don't know how it's selected, if it's like a random draw or if it's in what order. And so, and it, I mean, you know, different times in the year I see different, you know, the different names, so it's not like the same one that's being used. No. I don't think so. Not from the way I understand it. Right, but that's a good question, and that's definitely something I can ask Sean just to make sure Jack can just kind of get a little bit more information on how that is. But I've been down there when they came in, and it wasn't like they even knew they were coming in that day. And so I would ask that.
I would move to approve the claims.
The second to approve the claim of accounts. Are there any other questions or discussion? Not, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Passes unanimously. Next is public comment and communication. I don't have anything specifically other than to congratulate all of our sports teams and activities teams for state championships and second at state and Teacher of the Year award in Mr. Igo's case, and 8 years in a row being the star chapter, and all kinds of first place people. And we've said it before many times. I still think we're the best high school in Montana, bar none. And it's new with all the academics and athletics and activity things we have. So congratulations to everyone. Anybody else have any other comment or communication? Okay.
The 8th to the 30th, we're hoping to do an open house on that Wednesday. I think it's the 29th. Try to do something for like the staff and the board members from like 3:30 to 4:30. And then open it up to the public from 4:30 to 6. That's not set in stone. But we're just kind of working on putting things together. Thursday and Friday of next week, we will be hosting the District Music Festival. So we'll be bringing in a number of schools from this region to come in, and we were scheduled to do it. The last time we were scheduled to do it, it was COVID, and we got shut down that year just before it happened. And so they're actually getting to put some of their hard work into motion again, and Katie and Carolyn have been doing a lot of planning and organizing to get things ready. And so it should be a great couple of days. So, I think it's the 24th and 25th is like Thursday and Friday. So of next week, is that right? 26, yeah.
3 days. It's mostly Friday, Saturday.
They're not.
Oh, okay.
So they're gonna be able to do that.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, and yeah, we're excited to.
Okay, any other communications or comments? Okay, if not, we'll go on to the superintendent's report, Megan.
All right, 6.1 senior request to wear military stole. So I thought a couple of our seniors were gonna be here, but we just have one. Danner is here tonight to request the board approve graduating seniors to be allowed to wear U.S. military stoles over their graduation gowns according to board policy. Just according to board policy, the only change that is currently allowed to the graduation gown is wearing a culturally significant tribal regalia as part of a student's American Indian heritage. Students are also allowed to decorate their hats as long as there is no reference to drug use, weapon use, threats of violence, sexual harassment, you know, all of the things, bullying, intimidation, or violated district policy of any kind. So there's lots of regulations that are out there. And we have brought this to the board every year, I think for the last I don't know, 3 years, 3 or 4 years. And so Danner wanted to come and share a little bit about his commitment and just ask for your guys' approval, and that will be voted on in the action.
Yeah, so I'm Danner Plehar. Personally, I joined the Navy to do nuclear propulsion. I think it would mean a lot to the 4 of us that I know of who are planning on, or who have already enlisted in the military, and some have progressed more into that, such as Severn Meyer, who already has completed his basic training. But other than the 2 of us, Dean Smith has joined the Air Force, and Hayden Nelson has also joined the Army. Those are the 4 that I know, and from talking to them, and with my personal opinion in it, it seems like it would mean a lot to us if we could wear it and kind of represent our pride in defending our country at graduation.
Pardon my ignorance, but what's a stole?
That was my question also.
Like a little, not like the sash, but it just like hangs down like over your neck and front. Yeah. Yeah.
And just show which branch you're going to, is that what it?
Yeah,
Okay.
so they're different for each branch.
Sure.
So it would just be approving their official stole for whatever branch it is that they have invested in. So the other thing that graduates are allowed to wear are the honor cords if they have.
Similar to the honor cords, only it would be wider. Right?
Yeah, wider and the honor cords just hang over them.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Stop in tomorrow and I'll let you know how it goes.
Need to stick around a little bit longer for the student representation, just since Casey's busy with music.
Always welcome to if you
I
don't feel like you have to.
should probably get home and take care of my dogs. Yeah.
Thanks, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. And 6.2 state FCCLA report, we have Ms. Conan here, not only as the BFT representative, but also here to share a little bit about state FCCLA and just all of the great things that
Well, I had kids lined up to come and talk, but they had something. So anyway, I just wanted to tell you that we had 110 affiliated members this year. We got 2 grants that we applied for. The Families First grant, which was $200, and we worked with FFA, Honor Society, Key Club, and BPA to put together different food baskets for families here at BCHS. At Thanksgiving, we did 3 food baskets, and then at Christmas, we did 7 food baskets, which were like groceries for a whole week. So Caleb was able to get some meat from Garrison's and
Garrison's about donating.
Oh, she did. That's awesome. Yeah, and then we were able to just kind of all come together and put some food together for all those families. And then we went ahead and bought 32 gift cards for students in the school that we thought might need something for Christmas. So we did that. And then we also got a Vision Zero grant again this year from the Montana Department of Transportation. This year we got $2,200, which we used to put on a speaker. We had Natalie Marta from Idaho who came and shared her story of, drunk driving and how it affected her family. That week we did a whole week of events. We did that in February along with National FCCLA Week. So we did seatbelt checks, a gym day where we had 406 Coalition was there, Beaverhead Ambulance was there. They taught sidewalk CPR. We had Officer Stewart from the police department, and so he did some stuff with the kids. So it was a really good time. My kids put on a couple of different things, some quizzes, and the impaired goggles is always a good one. And so they did that. And then speaker was on Wednesday. Thursday, we did a pledge day. And then Friday, we were able to draw for prizes for the kids after they went through all the different stations in the gym. They filled out a card and then we pulled prizes. So we did like jumper cables and eye scrapers, things to put in their car for safety, safety blankets. And then Bank of Commerce donated 12 safety packs, like car safety packs. So we were able to give those away as prizes as well. We attended our district meeting in Three Forks in November, took 45 kids to that. We were able to, I used the advanced opportunity grant to purchase a cotton candy maker. And so we used that for fundraising this year. We did some fundraisers with cotton candy. We did hot cocoa, Martinson's candy. We did the club fair at the very beginning of the school. We helped with that. At Halloween, we did the trunk or treat. We did crunch time where we sponsored all the apples for the entire school and gave the kids some facts about apples, and then we all crunched into them. And then this week we're putting on an Easter egg hunt for all the students, and so we're gonna have prizes and candy, and it'll just be fun. And then in March, I took 6 students to our state conference in Bozeman at MSU. 3 of them did presented our Vision Zero project as a national program in actions. They ended up getting a bronze medal. And then the other 3 did the leadership routes. They got to hear some different speakers and do some different workshops. We ended up getting an award for the largest chapter in the state and also Gold Star chapter again. Like me. A big trophy. Oh, it's been quite a few. I don't know. I have all the little things on there's a plaque out in our. Yeah. We're fine. Yeah. Yeah.
Congratulations. Super. Yeah, well, between FCCLA and FFA, we must have 60 or 65% of our students.
Yeah.
Total, don't we? That's amazing.
Yeah, about 110 or 12, and I've got 112, so.
Wow.
Yeah, close to 3/4 of them. Yeah. Wow.
That's great.
Super, Kim. Thank you.
All right, and so 623 state FFA report. Mr. Igo is here and he's gonna report on the state FFA convention.
Mr. Reber, I brought you a box full of goodies. You're gonna pass those around. I also had some kids lined up, and then of course I had a mail on me for whatever reason. It's too nice outside to be coming to a school board meeting. I took 27 students with us to Bozeman for state FFA convention. Had it in the brick. Maybe the last time for a while because Bozeman's super expensive, but it was great. Had about 2,000 in attendance, and the atmosphere in the brick, of course, is great. Qualified 9 teams, 2 speakers, and some star candidates. Yeah, just take it, just spread it around. Take it out of that box. It's great. And that's so much crap we have in the box.
Yes, you know.
What's that? The kids did great. Won a couple state contests. Had enough teams in the top 5 of their contests. They were third in the sweepstakes, right behind Missoula and Kalispell that were like 4 in the academic programs. That we came back. Had been some individual efficiency awards, had all kinds of team awards. Ashley Birch won his proficiency in the misspelled his name on his plaque in there somewhere. Yeah, there's some new ones, but yeah. All around, just kids did great. Had a great week in Bozeman. Savannah Freitas was elected to a state FFA office, the first one in about 10 or 11 years. And then, yeah, it was super fun. And very impactful and rewarding, and kids did great. And next month I'll be asking permission to take them out of state because I've got to take 2 teams to National FFA Convention against this stuff. So it'll be a blast.
How many FFA chapters are there in Moncton?
105, I think they're active. 95 of them were at convention. So yeah.
You'll have to get something for the gym.
Oh yeah, I need to order that stuff from 3D, I guess.
Very cool. Very.
It was tremendous, Caleb.
Thanks, His kids did great. So
Well, included you to be named Teacher of the Year.
yeah.
Yeah, right.
Cool. So, fantastic.
So 25-26 insurance rate, renewal rate, so Susan and I did meet with Ashley, Lewin. And
Don't forget your box.
Exactly. Yes. Show and tell.
I'm gonna look at the- Amazing. Yes.
I think it's take out, I need to stay for this whole thing.
Yeah, I do.
So we met with Ashley on Friday, to kind of go over, the renewal rates, that she received. You'll remember last year at this time when we got our renewal rates, it was from Must, and they, renewed us at 100% increase, and so that was quite the, shock. They're still working on the trust, and there's still some things out there. It's just really not set in stone. They are asking some districts to commit. If you commit for 5 years, and you don't really know what you're committing to. And so we've kind of just said, it's not that we're not interested, it's that we'd just like to see a little bit more information before we're willing to commit to that. And so
That's a new one in there for me.
but through the state health trust. And so,
There's not cap in the annual increase for the 5 years.
well, and so they aren't really giving a whole lot of details in terms of what the, the rates, all of that is really set in stone. And so they're just kind of asking for schools to kind of make a blind commitment to see if they're interested. And I just said, it just doesn't seem like that would be in best interest, but doesn't mean that we wouldn't be interested when we get a little bit more information. And so we do have a couple of different contacts with that. So as things progress, I thought there was going to be a little bit more in this legislative session, but haven't seen anything in that regard. And again, if you'll remember right, it does require a certain number of districts and a certain number of lives. And especially on the lives, you don't think that it's that many, and I can't remember what that number is, but it's actual teacher lives, so it can't be spouses and families and those different types of things. So it ends up being it's quite that many, no, but it's up there. Yeah. And so, but both a certain number of districts and a certain number of lives have to be in there. So, and then of course, if you do commit, it's hard, you have to be in it for so long, you can get out, but then there's restrictions on back. I mean, there's just a lot of stipulations to it. And so anyways, and a lot they don't know. Exactly. And so, if you, in talking to Ashley, coming back from Blue Cross Blue Shield, they did quote us with a 7.7% increase, which if you'll remember right, that was, I think they anticipated anywhere from 10 to 14%. The thing with insurance, it seems like the premiums just continue to go higher and the deductibles also continue to go higher. And so the comparable was, we have currently a $2,500 traditional plan, 80/20 plan. And the new plan would be $2,600 deductible. We had a 32 high deductible. It would be comparable. They're raising the high deductible to $3,300, which isn't a significant amount. And then we had a 4150 high deductible, and the new deductible is 4250. And so with those three plans, that would be a 7.7% increase. Traditionally, we have split that between the employee and the district. And so what is that, 3.345? Something like that. And then they also, Blue Cross Blue Shield also came back with a couple of other deductibles. So there was one that was a $3,600 deductible, and then also a $5,500 high deductible. And if we went with the traditional, the $3,600 and the $5,500, it would be about a 2.6% increase. And so that was good. Obviously, the deductibles continue to go higher. And then they also, she also shared a quote from Pacific Source. And it sounds to me like that there's a lot of places that have had a lot of success with Pacific Source. I think the elementary is considering, I think they had it, they went away from it, and I think maybe they're going back to it. But they're comparable. They had we have a $2,500 traditional, and we go to a 2,000 traditional, but the out-of-pocket cost was, the max out-of-pocket cost raised, which I thought was interesting. And then the 3,200 high deductible, there's would be a $3,400 high deductible. Our 4,150 high deductible would then become a 5,100 high deductible, but the increase is a 0.6% increase. The benefit of going with a new company in this situation, and it sounds like Pacific Source is a pretty streamlined transition. Going from MUST to Blue Cross Blue Shield was pretty tough, but this one, it's pretty streamlined. The system seems to be the same in terms of, putting all of the information in there. And so if we go with Blue Cross Blue Shield, there's no re-rating like with our retirees, whereas if you go with Pacific Source, any of the retirees would not be on that plan, which is part of the reason why that percent increase goes down. It's because obviously the retirees are the older.
They'd have to stay on.
So they stay on Blue Cross Blue Shield.
No, they're just off. So,
There's a massive disruption.
yeah.
What about that? I mean, the other thing you should think about if you're gonna make a change is the mapping of the doctors.
Yeah, the network.
That-
Pacific Source is actually not as good from what I know.
If it's really disruptive, people in their care.
So we asked that question, and it was the network for Blue Cross Blue Shield was 99%, and the network with Pacific Source was 98%. And there are Pacific Source is more regionalized, but they have they have like MOUs, I guess what we would call them, with the different areas. So like if you had to go to Huntsman or you had to go to John Hopkins or something like that, that was out of network, that they have partnerships with them to be able to do that. And so, and then the other thing that was a challenge last year was when we moved to Blue Cross Blue Shield, their year was January to December. And so we had to switch our deductible at January. So we only got 6 months before we had to switch the deductible. So does that make sense, and start over? And so if they did decide to go to Pacific Source, we could stay on the January. So we would get that full year's deductible, if that makes sense. And it would go over at January. The words aren't coming together tonight for some reason. But I would, and again, insurance is just something that it's really hard for me to sometimes wrap my mind around. And so if you have questions or you've got knowledge in that area, some of those questions to ask too, so that we can continue to, pose those questions. I didn't think about the deductible until today when I was going over it with our union president, just kind of showing what the different increases were. And so we talked a little bit about that. So
Historically, the union has switched about sometimes every other year and sometimes every second year, because another company will come in and lowball it, and then they switch, and then their deals goes up, and then they switch with another one. So
and of course, I didn't think about it, but of course, Ashley is Phil's wife. I don't know if there's a conflict there in terms of she works for Mountain View, right? Is that what it is? And so, and I didn't even talk to. I was just, as I was typing this out, might be something that we have to look at.
I wouldn't think so, because the board isn't who makes the decision; it's the union that makes the decision. I think so. I think it would be a conflict.
And honestly, for those retirees, they probably don't get a better deal if they went on Medicare sub and left the group plan. Anyway, I don't know why they all wouldn't just do that.
And don't.
Yeah.
I had to go off. because they used to be able to still be able to pay their premium. Obviously, the school district doesn't pay anything towards that. But if I remember correctly, when we went to Blue Cross Blue Shield, I don't think we have any retirees. though.
We don't have any on.
Yeah.
You
I would think it'd be cheaper going to the market. for that.
Medicare stuff's way cheaper and the coverage would be way better.
Yeah, those that aren't 65, though, I think even.
Yeah, under.
Those are-
Just gonna-
Exactly.
So it's kind of interesting, and again, I do think that we were lucky in that, like I said, the initial talk was 10 to 14%. At the highest, it was, 7.5 or 7.7. And the thing about it is they could choose they could pick just 3 from Blue Cross Blue Shield. So if they decided to do, a traditional, and they could go with the 3,200 and the 50, to 5,100. So there is some fluctuation in there between that 2.6 to 7.7 if they decided to go with Blue Cross Blue Shield instead of the Pacific Source. And like I said, I did find it interesting. I think I've got it here. The out-of-pocket costs, which I think are probably the most important thing to look at when you're looking at insurance. But with the $2,000 high deduct or the 2,000 traditional, the out-of-pocket is max out-of-pocket is 6,500, whereas the 2,500 for Blue Cross Blue Shield is 4,600. So a little lower deductible, but a higher max out-of-pocket if you had to get to that. And so, I think those are all things that when I talked to John, when he was talking to the union about looking at those different types of things to decide what they felt. And we did talk about the idea of trying to have one amount for an employee, employee child, employee spouse. The hard part is we are so spread on all of those different plans that trying to find a number. Maybe we have a 7.7% increase, but it might be a 10% increase for that employee if they happen to choose that one. Does that make sense? And so it just almost doesn't work out that way to try to get there. Maybe as we get some lower increased numbers and we can get those splits to be a little bit more realistic, that might be a possibility as we continue to move forward. But it sure would be nice from a planning perspective to have just a solid amount. That would be helpful.
They'll decide what
So I gave
they
it
want, I
to
guess.
John. It's going to present it to the union. And there's an insurance committee that usually will take it and take a look at that. And I know some of them that are on the insurance committee have been on it as we transition. So they might even have additional questions that I didn't.
Then whenever
It's
the
just so
union,
convoluted with insurance. It's so, and you think it's one thing and then it's not.
whatever the union decides, then the non-union people also have to go along.
I will say, being married to said insurance agent, that 7.7% increase is pretty low,
Yeah, it is.
That's all.
unfortunately. It's pretty good.
And like I said, she braced me for it, and she's like, "Last year I braced you for that, and it was 100%." But so no, she was pretty happy with how things came back. And so, and again, so it would those rates for Blue Cross Blue Shield do include all of the employees for this year because it's not re-rated because it's not. I don't know if they re-rate every so many years or something like that, but, or maybe just when you change. And then when it's re-rated, I think there's 2 questions you can ask, and that's age and area that you live in. I think are the 2 things that they factor into that.
Put it on silence too. Oh, you know why? Because it's Courtney. She's the only one that comes through when it's. Yeah, apparently.
Yes.
So 6.5, House Bill 203 update out of district students. So as per House Bill 203, out of district students, Newry County High School will receive tuition for 8 students from Twin Bridges and Lima that have been approved to attend BCHS. So I think you approved all 8 of those at June meeting at the beginning of this year. We will pay tuition for 3 students who are attending other districts. The payments and the money received will be just about $2,500 a student. These payments will be due in fiscal year 26 school year and be paid in December and June. Students have to apply for out-of-district attendance every year. We've already received some of the FP 14.1 forms from some of our students who will reapply to attend. So even though we approved those 8, if they have not graduated, they'll have to reapply. And when we talk about the legislative update, there is a little bit of update to kind of clearing up some of that bill and lowering some of the tuition rates. Because one of the things, you get that tuition, but you also get the A&B money for them, and so it's been kind of interesting.
Yeah.
And nobody's really sure who's going to bill and who knows who to pay who, and it's going to be a nightmare for the core district.
What is the tuition rate?
It's about $2,500 a student, so that we will pay, and they will pay, and it ends up, I think it's 35.3% of A and B of whichever the district, and it's always the lowest of the 2. So when I looked at it, it was right around $2,500 a student that we would pay in and out between Lima and.
Just doesn't make sense that you get the A and B, but then then the other school's gotta pay for your kid to come to our school. That just don't
And it's
understand
all
that.
Need to pay for the students that are enrolled in their area, but I think that makes sense. And so that money that the school gets for those students that live in that district area, those taxpayers should be responsible for paying for those students' education. So if they choose to go someplace else, it follows the student. The hard part is sometimes when you're taking out at those levels, it doesn't necessarily equate, if that makes sense. Educational savings. All right. 6.6 included in your packet is a copy of the state report card and a detailed report noting that we received a universal rating. Schools are identified as universal if they do not perform in the bottom 5% on state assessments and have a graduation rate of 67%, both school-wide for specific student groups. And so you'll notice in your packet, universal is the designation that we want to have, even though that bar doesn't seem very high, if that makes sense. And so any of the student achievement data is going to be based on this year's seniors, last year's juniors. And so this junior class that just took that will be on next year's report card. And so it's always that year behind. And so you'll see that if you look, obviously school and district for us is the same. I always kind of go to the proficient column just to kind of see how we compare, and we are at or above the state in all of those in the proficient areas. And when we look at the advanced, we're right near the same there. So anyways, if you look on the back page, percents graduating high school in 4 years, our graduation rate's 90%. Students who are college or career ready is at 88% compared to the state at 64%. On that last page there, that's the information of students who have at least a 95% attendance for the entire school year. We're at 39% and the state is at 6%. I think attendance is definitely a challenge all across the state, all across the nation. We fight it constantly and constantly looking for ways to continue to get kids to want to be here, but sometimes it's just hard. So,
Well, is college or career ready? Is that based off? That's
SAT scores.
the state is 64%.
And I think there's a couple of other things that factor into that, but it's mostly, there's a college and career score. Oh, you guys. A college or career score that shows up on the ACT. If you ever look at the ACT reports for a student, that CCR report. A lot of times they abbreviate it, so you have to Google all of the abbreviations. We have not heard back from the state, so I submitted our state accreditation. I guess it would have been the end of February, early March or something like that. And so we have not heard. I did find out that Cognia did work out a agreement with the state of Montana, so there are going to be things that we don't have to do on top of our already Cognia accreditation. There are certain things like with the Indian Education for All and certain things with proficiency and those are the types of things that they're still going to require us to do, but there will be a lot of things that we don't have to double up and do again. So that will be positive for Josh, not having to maintain both of those standards for both of those accreditations, because it can get quite ridiculous. All right, 6.7, included in your packet is a copy of the latest preliminary budgets that include the inflation increase from House Bill 15. So House Bill 15 applied the existing inflationary adjustments of 2.7% for fiscal year 24 and 3% for fiscal year 25 to a number of the different components on the state school funding formula. The components include the per A and B entitlements, quality educator payment, Indian Education for All payment, at-risk student payment, American Indian Achievement Gap payment, data for achievement payment, and special education allowable cost payment. HP 15 is beneficial because it helps ensure that schools can keep pace with rising costs. So we have been receiving an inflationary bump, but this puts it into state law, factors it into the equation, which hopefully over time is going to continue to show an inflationary increase that matches the inflationary increase of what we're seeing in the costs. On that second page of that preliminary, you guys saw this preliminary budget the last time, but they didn't have any of the inflation in there. You'll see on that second page, about the middle of the page, it says highest budget without a vote, highest budget with a vote. And you'll notice that for the first time in many, many years, that's different. And so unfortunately, when we first started getting information about HP 15, they talked about a 3% increase for inflation. We do get that 3%. Unfortunately, 0.5% of that is, we'd have to go to the voters to get that $18,000. And so I think we talked at the last board meeting that any of that over with us running the technology levy this year, that it just wasn't a good idea to add that to the ballot and have people choose between the technology levy or the operations and maintenance levy, if that makes sense. And so it's a little over $80,000 increase, which again, just even looking at some of the claims and different things of the increases in some of those different areas, we're going to see. But at least it's put in there. I think it's a positive step in the right direction for school funding and education. And so I think it will be positive. So I just was hoping it was going to be a little more. So, all right, any questions on that?
Would have been nice one to know the last time that we not included the House Bill 15.
Yeah,
That's fantastic. Includes
it does include it. And the last one should have said that, but it didn't. And that was when I went into pure panic mode there. A little bit. All right. 6.8 cancellation of portions of the election pursuant to MCA 23313. So there are 3 open positions on the school board and exactly 3 candidates that filed for those positions. So in accordance with the authority that was delegated to Suzanne and I by you guys, the resolution calling for that part of the election was canceled, along with the operations and maintenance levy that we were allowed to run, which would increase the general fund by just a little over 18,000. And so. Have the technology levy on there. We'll have the May 7th election, which will ask voters to consider increasing our $50,000 technology levy to $175,000 for a total of $225,000. And so I would like to congratulate Bill and Lori and Gary on their winning by acclamation. And we're super excited to continue to have you guys on the board and represent your districts. Lori and Gary's are 3-year terms, and Bill's, you finish out, so I think it comes to next year. Next year. So
I'll just run.
there you go.
1 year time.
Yeah.
1 year.
Lori and Phil, thank you both for agreeing to serve again. Sometimes it's not the funnest job. We need good people like you guys on this board, so. We have a tremendous board. We were very lucky.
6.9 legislative update. I just wanted to just a couple of different bills that are there. You guys are getting all the information from Montana School Boards Association, but sometimes there's some rates can be long and overwhelming. So I thought I'd just share a couple of different ones. So the STARS Act, which is HB 253, it's still working its way through the Senate. The bill targets to increase starting teacher pay by doubling the quality educator payment. We've been talking about it for the last couple of months. And it also adds a quality educator payment for a district clerk. As long as our starting teacher pay thresholds are met, and there's agreement between the school and the union, school board and the union to meet those thresholds. And again, like I said, it is still in the Senate, but there is a strong indication that it will pass. And I will give a little more information on this one a little bit later. HB 250 changes to the state's out of district enrollment policies. This is kind of a 2023 cleanup bill. Its purpose is to clarify how schools can determine their capacity to accept transfer students. It allows district to set limits based on either maximum student contact hours per teacher or maximum class size permitted, which the school can set. So it just adds a little bit more transparency to how those, how getting to capacity is reached, if you will. And it also has the potential when it's paired with House Bill 156, which was the county-wide base levy, which doesn't really impact us because we already use a county-wide base because we're a county high school. But for example, District 10, instead of just using District 10, they will use the countywide base, which just opens that up and helps. It reduces the tax, or the taxes, I guess, if you will. So, and so this is where I talked about that they're talking about dropping the tuition from a maximum of 35.3% to 20% of per A and B. So instead of that 2,500, it would only be about 20%. Of the A and B instead of 35.3%. So anyways, it has passed both the House and the Senate, and it's in its final stages before becoming law. And like I said, it ultimately just creates a little bit more transparency and then just kind of cleans up kind of things that they learned from just quickly getting it into law. House Bill 483 revises laws to reduce property taxes while preserving the current 95 school equalization mills. So you'll remember last year, there was that whole push to get rid of the 95 mills and just all of the legalities surrounding that. And so the primary goal is to provide $56 million in property tax relief to Montana residents while maintaining the current 95 school equalization mills, which as they went through that process found it really is essential for schools to have this to be able to fund the schools statewide. But in this bill, it proposes using surplus tax funds to offset certain local school-related property tax levies. So in other words, if there's more money collected than is used, HB 483 proposes to use that surplus money to help people pay less taxes while maintaining the existing 95 school equalization mills. So instead of providing money back or rebates, the money will be used to pay some of the school costs so that the taxpayer doesn't have to be taxed as much. It gives people tax relief, but it is done by lowering what you owe and not handing out that money. So just kind of taking that surplus money and instead of distributing it out, it's, kind of reappropriating it to cover some of those school costs and school funding. So yeah. HB 15 is a 50% increase, 515 is a 50% increase in major maintenance funding. So it's designed to enhance funding for school infrastructure. It's by consolidating the school facilities fund and the coal severance tax bond fund into a single account. It aims to increase the funds available for school facilities. So a key component of this one-time transfer, which is about $75 million from the general fund surplus to a special school facilities trust. It's expected to boost annual interest earnings, which will then be allocated to the state assistant programs. The bill proposes a per district annual payment of about $40,000 for major maintenance. It can be used for critical facility repairs such as boiler replacements, window upgrades, those different types of things. Obviously, they're seeing and hearing from schools across the state that buildings are old and we just don't have the money to do that. And so they're just looking for ways to try to put additional funding in there outside of the general fund and those different types of. From what I understand, no, that it's just going to be taking these interest earnings and redistributing them to the school districts. I think it sounds really interesting and honestly very beneficial and very needed. Those were the legislative updates. So I do think that, do we have everything? So this is me. Oh, just working. If you guys don't mind, if we could kind of pivot and go to action item 9.2. Board consideration to approve graduates per board policy 2410 P1 and SB Senate Bill 197. I did put possible executive session, and if the board decides that the privacy of the students that are bringing information to you outweighs the right of the public to know, you can choose to go into executive session. I do believe that there will be conversations about academic record and those different types of things. So I would encourage you to do that. And we would just have each of the families come in one at a time and kind of talk about their application towards graduation based on that. Senate Bill 197.
Then you can choose not to do that. It would be a public meeting, would be recorded. But if we choose to go into executive session, then it would just be the board.
So that's up to you folks, whatever you would rather decide.
He said he's fine with it being public. It's fine. It's fine.
Fine to go public? Okay. All right, thank you. You know, Suzanne, that they were given the opportunity to go into executive session and goes to go public. So thank you. So what do we do?
Over to Rob.
Rob, okay.
Okay, yeah, this would have to do with board policy that we implemented. Allows that if a student goes through the W Challenge program, the possibility of receiving a diploma from E-Rec benefits. You guys approved some requirements, and those requirements are, they would have to get at least, I think you said 50% above the test they've taken. At one point, even when you talked about to make it away from the HiSET, so we kind of made it dependent on what test they were taking, because they all have different guidelines. And so with the HiSET, and they did the minimum for a HiSET score would be 45. So 10% above that would be at an extra 4.5. And so we brought it to 50. Full students exceeded that. I guess I don't know, should you go individually, I guess. Let me talk about it and then we'll go one family and the other. And then the other guideline was, if they had passed the youth challenge, in which they both did. They had to receive a certain score on the heights at which they both did, and they needed an approval. They did each wrote a letter, and I do have information. And just because you were here first, we can start with Lizzie. So I'm gonna hand out some information that we gathered, that you provided, or the challenge provided. Once this meeting is over, they will go right there in that shredder. So there would be no, actually, we have to have one copy to go to. Zone. Correct.
Mike, I can share.
Public meeting. Right, I'm. Thank you. We can let you see what. You see here. We wanted to make sure that students had certain rights from Beaver County High School. So we students that said, oh, well, I'm just gonna come here for a semester or part of a semester and don't have any really credits from Beaver County High School. We want them to be vested in Beaver County. And then if their choice will work out for them going to the challenge, then they will receive Beaver County High School diploma as long as it was approved by the board. That's why I included the first page, which said that I guess it doesn't matter, you can use had 25 credits. You know, and we had talked about possibly 11, possibly 20. But I guess it was in the policy that where you asked me to give you my recommendation. We talked about, Megan and I have talked about what is a good number, and half of what we have for graduation. Most schools require somebody to have a student to have 22 credits. We require. We get for them. That's the first page. The second page is the letter. That will go. The report card, kind of showing that down seriously while they're there. Where it was only for because it was difficult to get something well. By getting the diploma, they're certified or qualified and passed all these subsections. And so that's what that, like in the last page is. That's the diploma that they received from the challenge. And then the final page is for high set school. And so we're always nervous when we do something new. And we talk about it over quite a few meetings. Any questions that you guys have before we let Jessica go? Kind of tell us maybe what she's planning on doing in the future, but I guess I'll let you guys ask the questions. I thought it was important that
As a parent, that she wasn't really doing great in school here, and she had some issues, or especially towards the end. She went into the youth challenge. She wanted a fresh reset. She brought that to her dad and I. It was not a forced decision for her. She just wanted an opportunity to turn things around for herself. She did really well. She earned permanent leadership, which is a huge thing in the youth challenge. They all have this permanent leadership. They all have to serve in a leadership role for a certain amount of time. And then their lead cadre decide on who gets the honor of a permanent leadership position. She is currently enrolled at Montana Western. She's going to school for secondary education in art and minoring for English. She's looking at the military. She can't really pursue that for another month or so until she actually turns 17. I think that this is just giving her a really huge opportunity to keep moving forward. On a personal side of this, I've seen so much more discipline and accountability out of her. Really, really proud of her.
That's really neat.
It's awesome.
I think it's important and nice that the school can recognize that and that they get a high school diploma from their school. I think that is really, really neat, I think.
And they chose, both Lizzie and Odin chose that before her. So they wanted to go to these challenges. They did.
Tell her congratulations. In credit here.
So Odin had a similar story. With the youth challenge. Came things around, tell the youth challenge, that you can see in his report card. And then receiving his diploma for the youth challenge. And then, if you look at his ISO scores. Of the, as kind of the minimum we would like to see. I believe if you read that letter in there, another application.
I'm right now just kind of working part-time job until I can get into college, and I'm planning on just kind of going. I don't have an entirely set plan, but possibly going into a scientific field like medicine. That'd be interesting. Yeah. James first. Yeah.
College credit, so we did take college classes, two of them, for sure.
Also check college.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I saw her. I was just surprised it wasn't mentioned.
Their transcripts, their semester grade, they can test out of their regular Christian classes, and then if they choose to, they can go and take to say
And I put in my letter on this page too, is he got a scholarship for UMass Granite through there because he did really well in high set, yes.
Yeah, it's the first cycle they'd ever done that. We didn't even know about it. Miss Noble, the math teacher there, she was telling me about it. She's like, "Oh, isn't this cool?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's awesome." She's like, "Oh, Odin was the first candidate." So I was like, "Even better."
Yeah.
Yeah. Then also was the impressions.
I don't remember really about that story. She did get another merit-based scholarship from Western.
Which is really good.
And he's still planning on working.
Oh, yeah. It's gonna be hard. I'll just put all the green right now, but I'm gonna get a full-time job.
You're maintaining everything. That's the
Yeah,
main
that's
thing.
the big thing. And we've seen a lot of change in structure and getting up and being on time and trying and going a little better functionality.
It's great.
Wonderful, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah, I guess I would recommend that the application to receive a Newburgh County High School diploma.
Can we do that right now? Yeah, I would make that motion.
Been seconded to approve the recent graduates to be able to get a high school diploma in Newburgh County High School. Is there any discussion or questions? All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Passes unanimously. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thanks for coming in. Yeah.
You're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting.
Oh, you're also welcome.
Preaching.
Thank you very much.
There's nothing to eat, Mommy.
All right, so we'll go back to 6.9A, STARS Act update. Possible action, which will not be necessary. So as noted in the legislative update, the STARS Act has not made its way to the governor's desk, but every indication is that it's going to happen. In order to receive the funds, schools are going to have to basically certify that they're in compliance and show evidence that we will do that. We already will be in compliance for both the starting salary for the first 3 years, as well as this year at 62% of the average teacher salary. And so we have already met that. So we can certify. School districts that don't meet both of those thresholds have to have an agreement between the union and the board that says that that they have a commitment to make sure that both of those thresholds will be met. And so when we first were talking about this, we were under the understanding that we had to have that MOU. Again, it's going to be a quick turnaround because as soon as it's passed, they're going to expect it to be in place by May 15th. Just kind of looking ahead, oh, it's crazy. Just kind of looking ahead. This is a 5-year build, so it goes into 2030, and so every year it increases by 2%. So next year, that threshold is 62% of the average salary, and then the average salary threshold also goes up, and again, you have to meet both of those. The one thing to kind of think about is obviously as we have retirees, that's going to change the average salary. So, maybe this year we might have more teachers at the top end of the paid base than we might next year. And so that average salary actually might go down at 60. Does that make sense? And so, just kind of looking at the initial spreadsheet that I received from Montana School Boards Association, and I've had both Office of Public Instruction as well as Montana School Boards Association, just to kind of look at that. Every indication is that we will be able to very easily meet those thresholds for those 5 years, which is great news, because then we don't have to use that money necessarily to try to reinvest to get to that point. It can come into the general fund, which obviously will help with negotiations as well as all kinds of different things. And so, anyways, that's really positive news. The hope is that will pass. Sounds to me like there's some hope that they might be done with the legislative session by Friday, but I don't imagine that's going to happen. But anyways, I guess there could be a possibility that the starting, because I think from this next school year to 2030, the increase is about 10% on those first 3 years. There might have to be some money that is put into that starting teacher salary. But if it was, it would be hundreds of, a couple of, it wouldn't be a significant percent that would kind of maybe impact what some of the other teachers at different levels might be. That's one of the concerns, is that for some of these schools, they're going to dump all of their money into the first 3 years. And then those teachers that have been there for multiple years aren't going to see any of those benefits. Just kind of looking at where we're at, we shouldn't be in that position. And so we'll be able to easily certify this year. And because we will meet that threshold. And I've had that confirmed by school administrators of Montana School Boards Association, and OPI. So just wanted to make sure.
Some schools are really, that's what they need to
It's
do.
just been, I'm sure you guys have seen the emails that have come out and all of the different things. So, and our union has had some of those same questions, obviously. We were trying to think of the last time we hired a teacher with 0 years of experience. It's been quite a few years ago. What? With 0 years of experience. Yeah, I don't know when that was, but anyways. So we do have a lot of teachers that are on the top end of that. And so if we were a district where all of that money had to go into those first 3 years, I could see where there would be some concern. So
Caleb was about the last one I've had, maybe.
Any questions on that? Open positions. So obviously we have the math position open and we have the title position open. We do have 3 complete applications for math. The hope is that we'll pull those by the end of this week. Be able to look through them next week and maybe start doing some interviews the week of April 28th. So if there is a board member that would be interested, it would require, sitting through 3 interviews. We do like to have them teach a lesson. So we will provide them a topic, but they will do a short 20 to 30 minute lesson just in teaching of that. And then hopefully by the 1st of May, we'll have a recommendation. So the next 4 meetings.
It'd be nice if a board member could be in on it. I'm going to be out of town those next 2 weeks, but
Josh is going to be in town too, so he maybe can participate. Josh Henderson.
really,
Well, he'll be here the 28th through the 30th. So.
sure.
Anyways, obviously I won't be here next year. I'll definitely be a part of organizing and doing all that. But if there was a board member that was interested in being part of that, Rob will be on that committee as well, and probably have Janet as a math teacher. So, let me know if you're interested. We also have the title position open. I did open that just kind of with the indication that we're still going to get those monies, even if even with all of the kind of influx with the Department of Education and all that good stuff. And so hopefully that will be the case. We have not received any applications for that yet. 6.9C technology levy update. The technology vote the levy vote is on Wednesday, May 7th. Ballots are scheduled to be mailed out between the 16th and the 21st. Over the last couple of weeks, Paul has been putting out flyers into the Dillonite Daily, trying to get our flyer in there once a week and online every day. He's been on the radio. He was on there this morning. We'll be on there again, trying to get some information out. And then he's also planning to go around again to the local businesses and put some flyers on their community boards and those different types of things, and just answer any questions that you might have. So it's coming up.
Does anyone have any discussion or comments or thoughts of what we could do or should do or haven't done? Sometimes you can advertise too much, maybe. Time will tell, I guess. In a month we will know, but
Paul had indicated a student's gonna write a letter to you.
Yes.
That's
Hopefully we'll
nice.
have a couple letters to the editors in that paper coming up, so.
I wasn't able to hear Paul this morning. There was a doctor's appointment, but this was Lee interviewing Paul. Is that what it was? Good.
Great, AD report.
Okay, let's give you a quick update, kind of got to report on the numbers as far as activity. So track program has 49 participants, 27 boys, 22 girls. You can kind of see the last 2 years below there. Tennis program 19, 9 boys and 10 girls. Softball program 20 girls out this season, and the baseball program 23 participants.
We don't have any eighth graders participating.
No eighth graders anything yet.
That's good.
Yep. Yeah. Just to kind of piggyback off what Megan said earlier, the band and choir we will be hosting the district music festival next Thursday through Saturday. It is open if you guys get an opportunity to swing into the gym or the auditorium. Might be able to. So, you have 10 teams coming. We'll have the whole BW Lodge full of kids, the auditorium, the green gym, and then 3 churches. So it's a pretty big event. A lot of moving pieces, and Katie and Carolyn did a lot of work, and it's come together really nice. So, looking forward to that. And then the next portion of this, just talk a little bit about the Vigilante scoreboard at the football field. I've been working with Daktronics and Stockman Bank. I'm kind of coming up with a plan. We have some scoreboard options. I was able to work with Stockman Bank on, coming to some sort of, the agreement's not signed yet, but coming to an agreement where, they would pick up, looking at like 60%, we would pick up 40%, and that would allow us to sell some advertising based on the scoreboards to, generate some funds, I guess. I've talked with Roxanne a little bit about this, picking her brain on what that might look like, and I really feel like our portion, that 40% we could pick up in a year or two just off selling those sponsorships.
So much is the new scoreboard, bro?
They range anywhere from 25 to 40. So, but these two in here, I mean, they're the exact same scoreboard minus that dome. Yeah.
You were thinking. That's the first one.
Yeah, I think the very first one you guys had. Kind of what.
The old scoreboard would come completely down then and.
Yeah. I can't remember what I know we talked about it, you look it up, but I think that scoreboard over there was purchased in 2000.
So I have the original agreement. Yeah.
And it's time to be upgraded.
That's a problem.
There's been a little bit of problem with it. Some of the lights are going out, the horn's not working, and it's
Does this give you sound with it too through this? Does this give you any sort of like bars included?
no. It'd just be the scoreboard. It's
Straight in, that whole one.
I no, just because I don't know. I guess it is Westerns. I don't know.
We have to pay for 40%. Where does our money come from to pay for it?
Brock and I were talking a little bit, so, one of the concerns is with possible tariffs and some of those different types of things that, kind of pending. Need to try to order it prior to,
We have to have the agreement signed by May 1st, or there's gonna be a 5 to 10% Daktronics increase on it.
So our percentage, what's the amount that we would end up having to cover then, Rob? Is, or not percentage of the dollar?
so I'm looking at that. Be about just over,
Yeah.
You make that up easy.
we were thinking we could take.
Yeah.
So we get money back, put that money up to that $12,000 back into that, so it would repay it completely.
Absolutely.
To
And we can do that, yes, we can take it out of flex and put back in and
get that money. But then once we get to that point where we
Hey,
reached that $12,000, then that can go into an account that can then help support activities at a different level. So it's not necessarily money that's we're putting it out there, but we're gonna replenish it and pretty quickly with the sounds of some of the different packages that you put together with the.
Yeah, I'd be setting someone on a 5-year deal. And be changing.
you have some people in mind already or some people that would like to participate or?
I think I could find.
Okay. I think it's something we need to do. I mean, we need
I
a
do
new
too.
school scoreboard. I think that's a good route to go and goes to Stockman Bank for throwing some money in at it.
I think it makes so much sense. And you have the ability to have some residual.
Need to make a decision then. Like,
I think I
You
put
do
on
that
the
in- okay,
And then with the PA sound system in the BW Lodge, that's been long overdue. This year we ran into some issues with it. It was unfortunate. We were doing TJ's kind of last wrestling match and trying to give him his kudos and recognition and cut out. Kind of standing out there, not. I mean, it didn't bother him, but it didn't look great. So, had a tech guy come down, look at it. Basically, we have 2 speakers blown. We had an amp blown. And said that amp that we were using was from like 1990s, bigger or 89. Yeah, weighed about 100 pounds, but he kind of pieced that system together to get us through the rest of basketball season and graduation. So, I kind of started reaching out to a few different companies. Talked with Mr. Filing at Western. They use Montana Pro Audio. The fairgrounds, Jack said that they worked with them when they did the fairgrounds new sound system. And I spoke with, they just installed one in Ronan at their gym. It sounds like that's the route to go. I think you're getting a quality product with resources to come fix what might be wrong. They can kind of tap in from anywhere, or they could send a technician down to get that fixed. Look, I spoke a little bit with Daktronics on another option. Spoke to a few people that have them. They weren't super impressed with them. I just feel that you're going to pursue this Montana Pro Audio would be the direction to go. And
how much will it cost?
about 53,000.
Jeez.
But we do have the innovative tax credit. A lot of that money that came in was actually earmarked to go towards the PA system. So just over 32,000 of it is already in place to be able to do that. And one thing about the PA system is it's not just our activities that use it. We use it in so many different areas, from graduation to banquets, just different things like that. And so the thought might be to be able to split take the remaining of that from the concessions and maybe vending, so it doesn't, and so it's not impacting our general fund, but at the same time, it is impacting money that's come from kids in all different places. Plus, we also earn, the All-American posters. All of that money comes into there, and we've never really put that towards anything. And I think that, investing in a PA system that is quality system it's not a bad investment to make. I will be honest with you, after graduation, that's one of the things that I hear the most is I just wish that, you can't hear it from up in this section or whatever. I was there when they were trying to do the thing for TJ, and that was really too bad. And they have pieced it together to hopefully get us through. But again, I think just with the fact that we did get that $32,000 for the innovative tax credit money, that would be being able to split it between those two would be an easy way to do that.
Again, it's something that we have to do, I think, and I had a lot of complaints this year. First year I've had a lot of complaints, but I had quite a few this year about just our sound system in general, so.
Yeah, I think it just can't go ahead this year.
Yeah, I think it's
just. Damn.
Well, 1990 years ago. I don't know.
But the main components.
It's been a long time since we replaced that. I mean, you still can't plug like you can, there is a cable that you can get your phone into it, but it's interesting.
Both those are, should I, or do we do that now?
I think you could even do it now because I put it on the agenda as an possible action. So we could do it too.
Do you want them separate or do you want them as?
Totally separate, I suspect.
I would move to approve moving forward with the vigilante scoreboard.
Second.
And we seconded to go ahead with the purchase of the vigilante scoreboard with the stock and bank option.
Yeah, with stuff and big option.
Is there any questions or discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, passes unanimously.
Make a motion for the BW Lodge PA system.
Second.
Then moved and seconded to approve the new PA system for the BW Lodge Gymnasium. Is there any question or discussion? Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, passes unanimously. Okay. Assistant principals report, Rob.
Similar to previous months. I would say attendance is holding. Steady, down first semester, it seems. Next month, because I don't know how many free makeups I find with kids going on family trips over spring break, and so anyhow. And there's a lot of activities right now. Even tomorrow, we're sitting quite a few out. Have a whole match in tennis. So if you get a chance, it's fun to watch those kids play. They nice job. And attendance wise, very consistent. When it comes to discipline, there's always a few things that come up. But wanted to get 2 or 3 cell phones. Probably get kids to want to be here. And a few things about with parents calling in. So if the parent doesn't call in, you get an unexcused absence. And what kids really like is when we have out on Friday, they can go to lunch 10 minutes early. They don't have any write-ups, they don't have any parties. And we included unexcused absences, trying to get kids to school. And have the parents do what they're supposed to be. Call it in when they miss. Don't get me wrong. son was going the other day and got the little call and call her. You shouldn't call at 7:30. I don't think anybody's there. Stuff happened. And that really it reminded me. And then the next one is behavior incidents by months. Which is consistent. Either March and March was the end of our semester and those were the parties and started over. It takes a while, like until March, before they start accruing again. And I decided to one that days of the week that it's happened. Still that Tuesday. Or the for school week.
Why is that, you think?
I don't know. Sometimes I think I'd print them out Tuesday to Thursday, so that I think that's making sure we're attending. She does it like once every couple of weeks. And it's just the day that she picks, but I really don't think. I mean, obviously Fridays and Mondays are just down. Those kids aren't awake yet. Ready to go on Friday. Don't mess anything up. Do a week. And then graduation. Graduation's coming along. Seniors decided on Mr. Jory for their speaker.
Didn't know that he was even in the running.
Yep. And so I sent out a little Google document with the 3 people that the committee chose, and one of them backed out at the very end. It didn't matter, but the guest speaker candidates backed out. That during Mr. Merrill. And then we are going to go and actually be on the agenda. They also, I thought, would do something different, so we came up with a couple different options when going to Hot Springs, because I called Fairmont Hot Springs and they said, sure, you guys can come. All you need to do is rent this many hotel rooms.
Yeah.
So we talked to those Hot Springs, but they ended up deciding that they wanted to do the same thing they did last year with Iowa Falls and do the jump park and
Probably go to Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A.
I'm sure.
That's why Bozeman was, I thought would be it too, because they have a Chick-fil-A there too.
It's easy to get to.
It is. In the south.
Let's see, yeah, I think flowers are on their way for the bouquets that we use for our graduation and then the 8th graders use it for their graduation. Yes, we have pretty much everything planned out. We just got to make sure that all 73 seniors do what they're supposed to. I met with them on Friday just to remind them that there's still 6 weeks left and make sure that they power through and pass all their classes. There's a few that we've been in contact with parents. So we'll make sure that they all.
A good choice. So
Yes, yes, that is also true. Training rules to apply to everybody for the entire year, and not just the entire year, but your 4-year career. So there's a few of them. They were to do something again. It's some exercises.
You need to know what school board members will want to be there.
We can do that now, or we can do it next board meeting, but it might,
Okay.
either
It
way.
doesn't matter.
okay.
Roxanne needs to.
Well, I have such a dilemma because I could sit in the stands with my husband
That's true.
versus be up on the stage.
Something really special to give the diploma to your student.
I know. I'm doing it. Can I wait to make it?
Absolutely.
You also wouldn't have to sit on stage either, would you? I think we've had school board members in the past that sat with their family and then as their
Just walk
student.
Sure, and then just walk up.
and Just walk up on that. If that's okay with Rob, I think we've done that in the past.
And if there's more, you could just do like a section of them. So like sometimes we've done from A to whatever. And so you're not.
There really won't be that many, so that's why I sit with Kev, because I think he'll just be Courtney. I mean, maybe my mom, but it's gonna be a small group. Because you didn't want the grandkids in the stands.
The rest.
Could you imagine? Yeah. Yeah. Emily would be like,
You at Roxanne, my dad did. Great.
did he? Okay,
But you can, I think you
I
could more
didn't.
sit with your family
Yeah.
and just
okay. Okay, sure. Awesome, they could just.
coordinate that, sure. And how many valedictorians and salutatorians are there? It's awesome.
Awesome.
So think about it. We can decide at the main meeting if that's okay with Rob. With that long, is that okay?
Did it every year I've been on the school board.
You have.
Yeah.
Yes, I've done it for a lot of them, and I think I'm gonna be going to a hospital deal in Salt Lake that weekend, I think. Cancer checkups, so. Anyway,
Bill, you wanna do
BBB.
it?
I have another graduation on Tuesday that week.
it'll be good practice.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any questions of Rob? No, we'll go into the consent agenda items. Still none.
Thank
Okay, then go to the action agenda item.
One proposal for board to declare candidates elected by acclamation, which would be Gary Love for 3 years, Lori Smith for 3 years, and Phil Willett to finish out Pierce's. Gary Love is District 10, Phil is also District 10, and Lori is District 11 and 16. And if you guys vote to do this, they will be put in by the main meeting. Yeah.
I would to, I mean, is that how you would say it?
Just your acclamation.
Okay. I would make that motion.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to declare through acclamation that Gary Love, Phil Willett, and Lori Smith be sworn in as school board trustees at our May meeting. Is there any discussion or question?
Awesome.
Those in favor say aye. Those opposed?
2 we already did, so we'll go to 9.3, board consideration to approve senior request to allow U.S. military stoles to be worn on their graduation gowns. So you've heard from Danner to ask permission to allow them to wear their respective military branches part of their graduation regalia, and it is my recommendation that you approve this request.
Second.
Seconded to approve the request of the graduating seniors to wear their official military stole at graduation. Is there any questions or discussion? Excuse me, those in favor say aye. Aye, those opposed?
Board consideration to allow the district clerk to destroy any records that have met the retention period according to MCA 21-212. So Mrs. Bollock is asking the board consideration to allow her the ability to destroy records to make some room. According to MCA 20-1-212. Suzanne will provide us a few more little details. I don't think she has anything super specific, but just trying to clean up a little bit.
Yeah, I don't actually have a plan for what to do back there, but it's getting really full. I think we can clean it up, and someday when I have a chance to kind of wrap my head around the process of what to do with it. I have to do something different of getting a system in place for how to keep it organized. Have a file can go at the end of this year, and I think if I have this on, every April board meeting, then that file can go.
Yeah.
Whenever it is that,
How long do you have to keep a lot of your records over a certain?
a lot of them are 8 years.
Okay.
Yeah, some of it's 5, some of it's forever, so that's really what I have to really make sure.
But I'm not sure anything has been destroyed in
forever.
Yeah.
Straight from it can be too long.
Yes. And if you, something happens and you can produce something, they're going to expect you to be able to produce. So you don't want to be caught. with too much in your hand.
There's good reason to prove that.
Yeah, I would make the motion to allow the district clerk to destroy records that have met the retention period.
Seconds.
And seconded to allow the district clerk to destroy the records according to MCA 20-1-212.
Thank you for adding that piece.
Any discussion, questions? Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed?
Five for consideration to allow seniors to travel out of state for their senior trip. Mr. Hankins is asking the board to consider allowing the senior class to travel out of state to Idaho for their senior trip, which will be on May 21st. It's a Wednesday. That's my recommendation that you approve this request.
Okay.
Seconded to allow the senior class to travel to Idaho for their senior trip on May 21st. Any question or discussion?
Do you need chaperones for that or do you have chaperones for that?
We have usually Miss McCray goes. Whoever Miss Hacker goes. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, good.
Betty went last year. She'll probably go there.
Awesome.
Well, it's not April 25th.
Did I say April?
No.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's
Sounds great.
Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? I think unanimously. One last thing I have that I neglected to comment on during comment and communication was what a nice gesture it was for Western to donate the Vigilantes field in the land to the high school, and thank Roxanne for her help and the nice comment you made in the paper, and also the comment that Megan made was really nice and very, very pertinent, and what a neat thing for the community and the school and everybody.
Everybody could, there's always so many rumors about this, that, and the other, and people, so it was good that it's, the information was submitted and everybody knows.
Yeah.
Now we can get the new scoreboard.
Great. Well, thank you. Our next board meeting will be May 12th. Vote for the levy. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
In favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed. Thank you, everybody.